welcome to Indian Cine-MANIACS. What's going on, Maniacs?
Hey, hello, everybody.
Hey, I just want to say, I don't know if anyone notices, but Debbie thinks, if you want to comment, that this hat is like a winter hat and the shirt's like a summer shirt and they don't match. So if anyone would like, tell me what they think about that.
Can I make a comment right now?
Yeah.
I think you pick one or the other.
Thank you.
I mean, that's my comment.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to comment?
Oh,
you mean
I
other
want to
people?
comment on what a riveting start this is to the show. That's.
Yeah, because it's all
Something
about
else. Do you
you.
guys,
Wow.
can I ask you a question? Do you two plan that stuff?
I think that was
No.
planned.
Oh,
Come on, that
you
had
need
to
to have
plan.
at the production meeting. You should bring that up. Okay. All right. So here we are, Indian Cine-MANIACS. I think we got a good film to talk about this time. Drew is going to introduce the film. Then we're going to spin the wheel. I think we have now 6. I think this was a 7, so we're down to 6.
People are
I know we're
disappointed.
getting tons.
People are
of
disappointed
comments.
we don't have 100 movies on it. I'm just
I
telling
know,
you.
and everybody wants their film on it. I'd like to be
Or
fair,
take
but
this
I
one-
think
They say take that one off,
I know, but they want Doom 3 off. That one keeps coming up as well.
which is a joke. That's
I
a
don't know.
classic.
But the democratic roulette that dictates destiny decides. So
Oh,
that's
you didn't
it.
have to look. You didn't have
I
to
did
look.
look. I looked.
Oh.
But thank you for not thinking.
Well,
I
you got
looked.
did
better
that
at
well.
looking, so
I
that's
did.
good.
I'm
You
looking
did
with my
that well.
side eye. All right. So, Drew, what's the film?
So today's film is Detective Byomkesh Bakshy with an exclamation point. I had never heard of this character, but Byomkesh Bakshy is essentially, and this is name checked in the movie, so I'm not just comparing it to compare it. Basically, a Sherlock Holmes type of character in India. He's from Saradindu Bandopadhyay's stories and novels starting in the 30s. I guess they've made, and I think it's almost 24 movies and TV shows with this character, and it seems like it's kind of like Doctor Who or something like that. I'm sure everybody has a version that they like, and that this one is the best one. And this is a newish. I don't know if they've done anything since then, because this movie came out in 2015, and it was supposed to begin as part of a franchise, and unfortunately, it was shelved because of the part that makes me sad. I don't know if you remember, but my favorite part of PK was the actor who's the lead actor in this movie, who plays the detective.
Yeah.
And Sushant Singh Rajput died in 2020, so they won't be able, of course, to make any more in that whole story.
Oh, that's
It was
right.
very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too
So-
bad because he was really good in this film.
He
I
was
agree.
excellent.
And then, I mean, this movie is basically like a 40s detective movie with, a very clever central character who's smart, but he's not cool. He's not a fighter. He doesn't use a gun. I mean, it's very Sherlock Holmes in terms of a guy living by his wits in a not terrible, but in a rough part of the world, because Calcutta is the setting, and it's during World War II, and the Japanese are pushing across from the border with Burma, and there's a lot of just crazy stuff going on and all these different plot threads, just like any of these absolute classic Howard Hawks and other movies from the 40s. And I really enjoyed it, and it was funny because it's so much like those movies, like that detective format, that I know what to expect, but like in the best of those movies, I don't know how they're going to do it. I will say that one thing really bothered me, Amazon. You know how you have the X-ray thing that shows you the cast members and you can select them and learn information. When I wanted to see who played Dr. Guha, the character name was the reveal.
Well, didn't you figure that out, though, pretty quickly?
Well,
No.
but I mean, at the beginning, before I even knew who
did.
that character, that name
Yeah.
was, it would
I
be
know.
like if Darth Vader's on
No,
the
it-
screen and you click
if
up
they
and
did
it says
that-
Luke's dad. It was just like,
Yeah, I didn't read the X-ray, but I watched the film, and within 2 seconds after meeting him, I go, "Up, there's the nemesis right there." I mean, it's obvious, but didn't take away 1 second of this film
Mhm.
for me. So, I mean, getting that out of the way, I'm sorry they did that. That's.
Well, do we want to sum up the plot?
It's like
first?
Kaiser Soze.
No.
It's like calling Kevin Spacey Kaiser Soze.
well, it's hard
Which-
to sum up the
which-
plot of this movie. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Well, there's
go
a
ahead.
lot of them.
yeah, there are a lot of them, but basically, Byomkesh Bakshy is a university student. He discovers that he has a reputation as a guy who solves things and finds things that are hidden, and he has his heart broken when the woman that it's not clear if he loves her, if they are lovers, but they have some kind of relationship, and she's going to marry someone else, so he's pretty upset. And then a man comes to him, Ajit, and says, my father's missing. Can you help me? And finding out who his father was and why he's missing takes him into this world of Chinese opium gangs and British occupiers and looming Japanese soldiers and all these, and a famous actress, femme fatale, like
Femme
all these
Fatale was
different
great,
things.
yeah.
And I mean, we can talk about spoilers later. I don't want to say too much because some of it, like you said, like, okay, that's probably the bad guy. That makes sense. But there are lots of little pleasures as you go through the movie, and it's really very fun. And I don't know, the reviews that I read seem to think that it looked like Calcutta in the 40s, and I don't have a reference point, but it sure felt authentic to me.
It looked
the cars,
great,
the
didn't it?
clothes,
Yeah,
everything.
can I say
really
one thing?
Amazing.
All the money was on the screen.
I think that's fair. I mean,
mean, this film was gorgeous.
yeah,
from
it's
a-
beautiful.
from what they were trying to. I mean, I just say that. I don't know about. I mean, I know we kind of spoiled just now. We spoiled something
But you
pretty big.
spoiled the biggest. That's the
Yeah, but
biggest
I don't know
spoil.
how many other. I get what you're saying about nice little things here, but I don't know. Maybe I mean, based on what John's been doing with his reviews and people saying spoil the films, we don't care. We've seen.
Well,
them all."
because Indian audiences have already seen this, so that's why
Yeah,
they're
so
saying
I
why
think- I
interest-
think-
it's an old movie.
it's up to
makes
everybody. But I think we just gave away the biggest one. But I mean, it's okay. So who wants to? So the plot, the plot starts with the opium theft, I guess, and we
And it's
see
very
that.
violent.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That guy
Very
gets his
violent.
eyes stabbed. And then the thing. Now here's my question, and I got confused about this, and I think you just answered it. When he looks at the picture of the person that he was wanted to marry, but she's marrying somebody else.
Right.
That's the father, correct? That's that kid's father.
No,
she
no.
was the second wife, wasn't
No,
she?
that's
of that
that's
guy?
another promising university student.
Oh, she wasn't the second wife of the father.
I don't think so. No, that's not how I saw it.
Okay, I
The
got
father had
confused
the
there.
young. I know you were talking about the young 24-year-old wife
Yeah.
that we saw bawling in the hospital after they found the body.
Oh, that's not the same woman.
I don't believe so. No.
Oh,
I wondered
And then
about
if you
that
watch
too.
the credits, you see. I'm totally blanking on her name, but the sister of the politicians.
right. Yeah.
At the end, you see their wedding invitation in the credits. Him,
Mhm.
her, and
Yeah.
Bakshi, which was kind of sweet.
Oh,
Even
that's
though it
neat.
was covered in blood in the credits.
I do love the start of these films where they say smoking's bad because they made smoking look fantastic in this film.
That's pretty
That
Like the
cool.
scene in the
40s.
bathtub where he hands her the cigarette and she's leaning back in the bathtub. Jesus. I mean, that makes smoking look cool. And I know it's not, but holy shit.
This is
yeah.
very kind of sexual too.
Oh, you
in-
think?
In this film in general,
Yeah.
it's violent and it's more like naughty sexual than a lot of the stuff we've seen. I
Well,
would
it
say.
went a little slightly further than most
But
of
not
what we've
much.
seen, but not that far.
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean-
they kiss.
But to
I
me,
mean,
it
they
was
kiss.
it was definitely more.
Yeah.
But I really liked
Well-
this film.
More overt, for sure.
I thought it was just like a 40s
Film noir.
film noir film. It was
Absolutely.
exactly like one.
Yeah.
I loved the Calcutta setting. I loved the cars, and someone said that it's very accurate for the time. The character was very interesting, as you mentioned earlier. He's very smart, but he does, unlike Sherlock Holmes, who rarely makes a mistake. He does let himself to be mistaken, and also he's not above getting beat up at all too. Like
Well-
that guy Anja just slugs him in the first thing. Now
Did you
that's also
notice-
a difference with Sherlock Holmes.
Well, and did you
because-
notice through the rest of the movie, he was twitching every time someone's swinging at him?
Yeah,
Like he was
Super
always worried about
flinching.
getting hit.
Yep.
That his friend just reaches his hand up like this and he backs off. So
yeah,
that's what I love the vulnerability of the guy.
yeah. He's definitely more vulnerable than Sherlock Holmes, who
Right.
could handle himself. Remember, Sherlock Holmes knew Eastern martial arts, so and wrestled with Moriarty to his death in theory.
Yeah, I mean, I
But,
will say that there's some nice parallels between the Sherlock Holmes and this character. I mean, the books are narrated by his friend Ajit, who we see them meet in this story, the same way Dr. Watson narrates the stories of Sherlock Holmes. And they're both kind of, I don't know, they're both kind of grubby. They feel real world, even though he's such an extraordinary character in both of them. And I don't know, I
I'm
dug
glad
it. The movie
Ajit
was
is
fun
the
to watch.
character because he's sort of the muscle. He's got, he's a great counterpoint
Yep.
to detective. He's a great character, and it's a very well performed film. I love the actress who played the actress. She's great. It's a great
You mean
character.
Swastika?
Yeah, Swastika.
Swastika.
Yeah, we noticed that
Mukherjee.
name in the
Yeah.
titles.
I forgave her. They did it first.
And the mystery. Can we talk about the mystery, or are we going
Why
to
not?
spoiler now?
Yeah, we talked about them. Spoilers. Okay.
Go ahead.
So I understand practically the drug dealer, the main guy, the villain, he's luring he's bringing the Japanese in. He's using the nationalists to fight the British, but he knows they're all going to be wiped out. And
By
then
the Japanese.
doing battle, the Japanese are going to walk over it. In return, Japan, and China have been, Japan's been using the drug trade. He's going to be the drug lord of Southeast Asia or South Asia in return. Now, Ajit, the one guy's father,
Move on.
if I understand it correctly, he had developed a product that became incredibly popular because it had opium in it.
Well, it was heroin that would
Heroin.
not be detected.
No, but
except in the
I
bloodstream.
think this was the innovation. He got fired from his job as a chemist before that. So I think his goal was he was going to put this a food recipe with this secret heroin in it, so that people would be addicted to it. Is that what I'm understanding?
Who would? The father would do that?
That the father is doing it. That's why they were.
I think the father was testing that. He was using that one roommate of his to test the formula.
Yeah, to
Yeah,
test
I
the
think he was
pond.
seeing if it
with the
worked,
pond.
and it
With the
did.
pond, right?
I don't
The guy
think he was going
addicted.
into the pond business or anything.
No, I think, as I said, he didn't realize what he had, and he was doing it for fun, basically.
Yeah.
I don't think he had a negative intent. I don't think he had an evil
Then
intent.
why was he helping build the factory that was going to create this heroin?
Well, because
I
it
think
let him actually make it.
Mhm.
You know.
And I was going to say, I think at the end, kind of at the very end, you could call it a bit of a twist, is that throughout the whole movie, we're being set up and led that this guy is basically a pretty amoral dude who's created this terrible thing and is setting it up. And what happens at the end, Bakshi kind of explains it, that he was used as well. Like, he created this thing. He was a genius chemist, but he wasn't necessarily a bad person. He was not the one that put the formula to terrible use. Do you know what I mean? Or in this case, a potentially terrible use, other than, jacking up his roommate.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so that was one of the things. I really enjoyed this film a lot. I thought it was really, like everybody said, it looks fantastic. The characters are great. I really liked his sidekick, kind of his, and if obviously there's more of these, he's a chemist as well, just like Watson was a doctor. Right. That's going to come into a lot of play in future adventures of these two guys. One of the things I really also thought was really cool about this movie is it's set in a time that I knew like zero about, like India during World War II. Do you know what I mean? I know that there were plenty of Indian soldiers that fought alongside the British against the Axis powers during World War II, but I didn't really have a lot of understanding of that. And what I also thought was really cool is, at least from the films that we've seen, this is the first time we have like a Chinese main character and a Japanese main character. Not main, but like a foil, the Watanabe guy. He's obviously a bad guy. The Japanese are, coming in. But I thought it was really cool and complex how, you had this one guy who's basically like, he ends up being just a drug dealer, but he's using the nationalist and the enemy of my enemy is my friend thing. I found that really, really clever and really cool. And what I liked about this movie was, you thought it was going to go a particular way, and then it kind of takes like a pretty sharp angled turn and it goes down a whole different path. Like, they find the father and you're like, okay, we still got an hour and 15 or 20 minutes left.
Right.
And then it turns and it becomes about this whole opium thing. And then at first, but you think it's mainly about like a throwing off the British kind of thing. And then, which we've seen a lot of in these films. But then I loved it because it turned it back around again. And it was like, nope, it was a little bit grimier and a little bit smaller. It wasn't quite as grand. This guy is just like, hey, I want to bring in, he's an evil guy. I'm going to bring in the Japanese and I'm going to be in charge of the drug trade.
Yeah.
Win-win for him, you know?
He was
You get
super
the
evil,
British.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So, but
great.
I mean, I thought everybody in this movie was great. And the woman who, Swastika, that's how you pronounce her name.
I think so.
How she was terrific. I mean, especially that first scene when she's smoking and she's kind of doing the whole femme fatale thing. I mean, she's a 4 alarm fire in that sequence, in all of the sequences.
Well,
really.
even her just jumping in the water.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
undressing and jumping in the water.
In the way that they just kind of tease it
And
out.
they
So
shoot it down
well
that long tunnel. I mean,
Yeah,
whatever.
and that tunnel looks great. Like he
Right.
walks onto it, it's like
Right.
perfectly symmetrical.
Freud would
Right.
have a field day with that.
Yeah.
All we
Who-
needed
who-
was a train to
Right.
go in the tunnel.
Yeah, we needed
Yeah,
a train
exactly.
through the tunnel. That would have
Exactly.
Right.
A little
Oh, you
North by
guys.
Northwest, right?
Yeah.
Anyway. But no, fantastic film. I'm really I'm sure there are obviously other versions, but I really would have loved to have seen this guy, in a couple more of these. I think that would have been
Yeah,
this
it's
pretty
sorry he
talented
died.
film.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad because he really was good. And
It was very interesting politically considering all of the Indian films we've seen so far that deal with the British. The British, it's interesting that the Japanese are considered worse than the British, in this film. And although the detective wants to stop the Japanese, he's still withholding information from the British because he doesn't want to hurt the nationalist. So it's interesting how they managed to thread that needle. And I didn't check the credits if this is based on one of the actual books or, like after those Sherlock Holmes movies, particularly the ones set in the 40s, where it was all World War II stuff. None of those were really, close to the books. So none of them. Sherlock Holmes never worked to protect radar from Nazis, So, but he is a great character. The
yeah, they
locations were
really.
terrific.
We'll talk. I want to hear John's thoughts, and we'll talk a little more about some of the specific scenes that I kind of thought were.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I like the Sherlock Holmes and film noir merge they had there. I always say this: they took me to a place I've never seen before. Ralph, you probably love the fact there was no backstory. The guy's graduating from college and he's a world-renowned
No, we just dropped right into the film.
detective.
Great.
Which
Great.
I was like, I'd like to know how they even knew this guy was such a great detective and whatever. But I loved, as I was watching it, I'm trying to figure out who's who in the Sherlock Holmes version. Like when, Ralph, you said you knew right away who the bad guy was. Well, I thought the doctor was going to end up being Dr. Watson because in the beginning they kind of
Same
had a
here.
good relationship. So
Yeah,
I'm
me
like,
too.
okay, this Dr. Watson. So then he actually became Moriarty.
Yeah.
And for me, and you guys already said the stuff about the movie, I enjoyed it. It kept my interest. But that last scene when he confronts everybody, that went on for 25 minutes, I think. It's such a great, well acted scene, the way everybody played it, including him, but the way the bad guy played it too, I thought was brilliant. And then when he kills the femme fatale, it was
Brutal.
it was brutal, and it's something we haven't seen a lot of that.
Literally
like that.
twisting the knife. He twists the
Yeah,
knife.
like Harry Carey almost. I was like, wow. And
Yeah.
so I love that. Now, my one criticism that I will give of it was the very end when they had Moriarty chained up and everyone's got a gun on him, and the guy manages to escape. I didn't buy that for a second. I thought that was kind of stupid.
After stabbing his own eye.
Yeah, and I know that in Sherlock Holmes, Moriarty always ended up, surviving. But that I just found, I think the way they did it was I found that kind
That
of
was
silly.
over the top compared to everything else.
No,
I mean,
just that scene, it didn't strike me.
I don't know,
I just,
after-
I didn't buy it. But
Okay,
but
I
I really
said-
liked it. What?
well, and they set up two people, like the Watanabe, was that his name?
Mhm.
He walks away and kind of goes, "I'm going to see you guys
Right.
down the," So they're
Mhm.
setting that up.
Yeah, they set up the
Obvi-
sequel.
Obviously, they're setting up this
Yeah.
guy to be his, Moriarty to be there all the time.
But I also think, like you said, he made mistakes. Well, he made mistakes because Moriarty was so brilliant. He put the things out there because he knew how brilliant the guy was.
Yeah.
So he dropped breadcrumbs.
the stamp thing and the
That's right.
newspaper
So he was manipulated. Then he finally figures it out. But I really enjoyed this movie, and I'm curious to know in the other movies. Like, I haven't read any of the books. Is the guy, the lead character, the detective, that age, college graduate age, or is it older? I'd kind of be curious about that.
Was
And
this
other
the
film-
first in the series? Was this
No,
the
I
first?
think it's one of the. I think it's one of the later ones.
It's based on Satyan Veshi, which I think is one of the earlier stories that's really about him, and it's very loosely based, which apparently I haven't read it, but it's apparently about illegal opium trading and things like that. And there is a movie of the same title that came out a couple of years before this that was the last, what was his name? Sujoy Ghosh. He directed and starred in a number of Bakshi movies, and that was the last one that he did. So I think, think about just in the past, 15, 20 years, you've got, Robert Downey Jr., Sherlock Holmes exists at the same time as Benedict Cumberbatch's, exists at the same time as Johnny Lee Miller. They all have something to offer.
Yeah.
So this is, another version of
And maybe
what
they
would be
rebooted
familiar and their own thing. And
Maybe they
very impressive.
rebooted the character with a younger character to appeal
Could be.
to more people.
Well,
I also
so they
like
don't
the
all take
heroine.
place
The heroin scene, because that's so Sherlock Holmes. When
Yes,
he
I was
ate
thinking
the
that
pot
too.
himself and he
Yep.
he was painting on the walls.
Yeah.
That was very Sherlock Holmes. I was like, okay. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I did.
I will confess that in that scene at the end where he has everybody around the table, that I thought the little guy that they kept yelling to serve them all the time
Yeah.
was going to be the Kaiser Soze.
Yeah.
He was the one that was
The
going to stand
Moriarty.
up, straighten up,
Right.
and be the.
Right.
Turns out no, he's just.
I
in there to
thought
serve
that
them.
like halfway through the movie, because of the way they kept showing him,
He was
and
just
the way
so
he was being
prominent, yeah.
belittled by everybody.
Right.
Okay, this is going to come back and bite them.
That's
But
what I
no.
thought. But no,
And I
it
thought
was
the
actually
bad
that
guy was. I thought that bad guy was great.
He
the
was
guy who played
fantastic.
the villain was really good in this.
And
Yeah.
that's that last scene. Not the last scene.
No,
where he
not-
takes
yeah.
them all out
At the table.
But at the table, he was going up and down, like keep going. He was great. It was great.
Yeah.
But again, and the costume scene, where they're dressed up, following that assistant who ends up getting slaughtered in the dentist office, and they're setting up the whole, you got to go get your tooth pulled or whatever. Can you be a good actor?
Yeah.
I thought that it was charming. They were fun.
Yeah.
And and normal and smart, and it was just fun to watch these guys. I was like, I wanted to hang out with them. Not hang out with them. I wanted to keep watching them. I thought they were good together. And I just love that he kept flinching every time someone lifted a hand around him. So, because in Sherlock Holmes, Robert Downey Jr., he's beating the crap out of everybody, right? So they play that up pretty.
I
well.
liked one review of the Robert Downey Sherlock Holmes where someone says, this is the perfect film for you if you love the Sherlock Holmes books, but don't think there's enough explosions and knife fights.
Yeah,
Right.
a lot of penetrating knives in this one. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some stuff.
There
Debbie,
was
did you?
a lot of brutality?
Well, Ralph, it's funny you said the key word. It was very smart, and I was lost in this film so much, and I couldn't understand. I couldn't get a handle on it. It lost in translation, because I know when you're dealing with a mystery, you have to really pay attention. And I was the subtitles. went
For
by
me, it
too
was the
fast.
names. A lot of
Yeah.
names that were being thrown around. Okay, you got to keep in your head who's that person, the father, the this, the that, the that. That was a little tricky. But I guess I hear you, and you're not wrong. It could get confusing. But ultimately, it was the drug thing that kind of just wrapped it all up, and the fact that it
Well,
ended
who
up being
killed the
the opium
politician?
from the beginning.
You had to figure that out. You didn't know that till the end.
Yeah.
The subtitles were really fast.
Yeah.
I mean,
As opposed, as I'd say, if I was doing them, I would have let them, particularly in the beginning a lot, linger a little longer into silence.
but you can't. I mean, you can't.
But you're talking about a movie made for the Indian audience, so
Yeah, you
they're not
can't.
going
I
to
mean,
Well,
do
it's
the
also
subtitles a certain way.
It's also funny to mention that because I remember thinking early in the movie they were subtitling all the dialogue. They were not subtitling almost any of the signs or anything
Right.
like that.
You
So
know,
especially
good
when
point.
he's on the tram
You're right.
and there's that guy keeps shoving the newspaper in front of him.
What's the purpose?
And somebody walks past with a poster of. I was like, I'm missing world
I
building here,
rewound
guys.
because I wanted to know. Because I didn't have the subtitles on at first for some reason. I go, I think there must be a
Yeah.
reason.
Because
to
you
show
thought
the
it was in
newspaper.
English.
But the poster that goes by is the woman, is the actress.
Right.
It is okay.
Right.
Okay, the femme
Okay.
fatale. But
Yeah.
what's going on in the newspaper? I think the newspaper was saying there's murders and things going on, but they didn't translate that. So I was a little bit lost in that thing. But yeah, it's the names and the quickness of the subtitles would make it confusing. There's no question for an
But
American
that's,
audience.
That's the problem that I had. But the most interesting thing that I liked about the film was to understand what was going on in that period, what time period when heroin was coming to their country, and what happened here in the United States with the Bromo Seltzer company, because that was the same concept. Bromo Seltzer was selling a product
That was dangerous.
very dangerous, had a very terrible high. You got high from it, and
What's terrible about that?
Seems nice.
well, people were
Well,
addicted to
it was sent in 2-dose bottles.
We have one
And
of
if
those.
you
We
had
should-
both of the bottles,
Oh, we should go
if you
get
took
one
the
of
whole
those.
bottle, you could
You
die.
could die.
Oh, that's all right. That's not
But
good.
you'd die
Oh.
happy.
Well, I'm
Wasn't
sure.
Geritol the same thing? Geritol was
No,
just
Geritol
speed,
was
right?
Alcohol.
a useless thing that didn't do anything.
Well,
I thought that was
Geritol's
speed,
got
but-
alcohol.
No, it wasn't speed.
Alcohol. It had alcohol in it.
Coca-Cola had Coke in it, but
Yeah,
That's true.
Coca-Cola.
Um,
But interesting.
yeah.
The original recipe.
Yeah. KFC.
I would tell you, now that I've seen this, I'd be curious to watch an older version of this and
Me
see
too.
I'd like to see
different,
another
maybe an older
version of this as
character,
well.
and see if it follows true to like a Sherlock Holmes novel. If that's because the author said it's based on Sherlock Holmes, so it's not like we're saying anything
Yeah,
that's not
yeah.
true. But I'm just curious if there's a lot of in the other movies, is it like this also? So
Well, and I also like. I mean, I'd never heard of this character, and he's right up there with Holmes, with Lupin, with Poirot. Like, I think, what I've learned about, the gosh, I mean, 90 years of writing and movies and all this sort of stuff. He's as as much a part of the culture as Sherlock Holmes. But I did like that they mentioned Sherlock Holmes in the movie as a little aside. Like, who does he think he is, type of thing, and that was funny because when I was reading about it, I saw what you said, John, that the writer said, yeah, this is my inspiration, which is good because it is. He also had a couple of other really famous characters. One was someone who talked to ghosts and some other things. So there may be whole worlds of other movies and entertainment.
Well, he's got a
spun out
whole.
of
I'm
this
looking at
author,
his.
so.
I'm looking at his IMDb. He's got some interesting titles, and one of them, I think, the Ghost Stories. Maybe that's one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's
Lust-
Baroda or something like
Lust
that.
Stories sounds good.
Ooh.
LSD, Love, Sex, and or decor. I mean, so interesting guy. I mean, the film cinematography and whatever was going on, however they pulled it off, whether it's
Yeah, beautiful.
CGI and green screen or whatever. I mean, they nailed even down to the costuming. Like the Japanese character that turned out to be the undercover cop, his
yeah.
costuming and the clothes he was wearing were just spectacular. I mean,
and the
just
music, the
beautiful.
music was great too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the music for a second because
Yeah.
it's got some really anachronistic choices, like heavy metal
Yeah,
songs.
I
and
thought
things
that
like
was interesting.
And it kind of worked for me. It was kind of like what was that Heath Ledger Middle
No, it
Ages
didn't work for me
movie?
there, but
Oh, I love
right.
that film.
Knight's Tale.
Knight's Tale was
yeah,
great.
they
Oh
did
my
that, but I
God.
felt it was weird. Like
Yeah.
in that movie, it didn't
Love that
completely fail for me, but in that movie, it was kind of like, look what we're doing. And in this movie, I was watching, and then I would sort of notice, oh, wait, that's an electric guitar. So it didn't take me out of it. It just
And there
sort
was
of
English language
oriented me.
songs in
yeah,
there
and
too,
English
right?
language
Music.
songs.
Yeah.
Especially because at that point, like I remember noticing as the movie starts, there's a lot of jazz,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Mhm.
horn and stuff in the soundtrack. So you're like, all right, they're really leaning into the 40s and everything, that vibe. And then you're right, there's a couple of weird. You're just like, this doesn't sound. This sounds completely out. But it's a couple of those scenes when especially like when he's following people or they're
Yeah.
in the street. It kind of it suddenly just kind of naturally ratchets up the intensity and the of what's happening. I could have gone. I could have done without the heavy metal song over the credits. For some reason, that didn't work for me, but it worked for me in the film. But I don't know.
It confused the hell out of me because I'm looking for like clues as to what's going on, hearing things, seeing things, and reading things. You know, it's like, wow, this is too
Well, you mean
much.
that LSD thing or the heroin painting he
painting.
made with the clue down on the bottom wasn't enough?
Yeah.
The Young Guns.
Young
That
Guns.
was
I
a
was
funny
lost
scene.
in space.
Well, you
I mean,
can't blame these people for wanting
It's
to
not-
have a hit record over the end credits,
Sure.
like a
No,
'90s
no.
action film, like
Yeah.
a '90s meteor film or something. You know, so subtle
We'll get there.
reference.
We'll get there at some point. Yeah. Anyway, anybody else want to say? I mean, what else? What else you got? Anything?
It's a shame that actor died.
That is-
so
that
young
is-
because
Yeah.
he's very. It's
He's
funny because I go, I know I've seen this guy, and I
Yeah.
can't remember where I saw him.
Well, the whole
And then I looked
the
him up,
whole-
and I said, "Oh yeah, PK."
Yeah, he's wonderful.
shame.
Yeah, he was
the
very
way-
good.
and he had oil in his hair. I guess he had to oil his hair to
Yeah.
keep it down
Shellac
the way
it.
because and
Yeah,
he had the eyebrows that went across. He really was an
Right.
interesting character.
yeah.
So all right. So the question is, Zooby do or Zooby don't? I think it's except for Debbie, maybe. It's
Yeah, I
all
give it a
Zooby-Doo.
Zooby-Doo.
and it's
Absolutely.
only because I'm not smart enough, you know.
Well, that is Debbie. Don't.
It was
even do
hard to
that.
follow, Deb. That's
It
what
is.
you're
It is
saying.
difficult.
And
There were a
it's-
lot
it
of
is-
names.
I was
A movie like this is
perplexed.
harder to follow
Mhm.
reading.
Come on,
subtitles.
Auntie. Auntie, don't do that
Oh.
to yourself. You can't
Although-
do that.
But remember,
I was bamboozled.
it's
I
hard to
couldn't get
follow.
it.
It's hard to follow on purpose because you're traveling along with your hero. So and the idea is honestly, he's smarter than all of us.
Yeah.
So you're trying to figure out the same things he's trying to figure out, and he's in theory several steps ahead. So I wouldn't feel bad that you got lost in the mystery because it's a very complicated
I
plot
wish-
he unraveled.
I wish Dr. Watson would have been a little bit stupider, you know.
But
That's
Dr.
not
Watson and
consistent
Sherlock
with
Holmes
the
is not
Sherlock-
stupid. He's very smart.
Dr.
Nigel-
Watson
but
is
it's
who?
Nigel
You
Bruce.
mean his partner?
Nigel
there?
Bruce.
No, Dr. Watson would always explain things,
Right.
obviously. You
Who's
know,
the Dr.
obvious.
Watson in this? Is that his
Ajit.
partner?
That's
Ajit
Ajit
Banerjee.
Banerjee, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez.
His
I
partner.
gather, I mean,
Well, yeah, he's the one who surprised us by beating the crap out of all those policemen. That was so
Right.
funny.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
I don't normally want to do this in these films, but I thought the guy playing the British inspector, the guy that he kept going to, was kind of a good character.
Well, that's Inspector Lassad from the.
okay. I don't want.
Yeah.
You know what? You guys keep comparing
Sure.
this to just okay.
But that's what it was. That's
Can we
why
talk
it
about?
was like
I want to
that.
talk about.
It's a
I want to
it's
talk
a
about the
conscious
context.
template. It's a
Okay,
conscious
but I want
template,
to talk
yeah.
about it in the context of this film. Okay.
Okay.
I like that he was flipping between Indian language and English language, and the
Mhm.
fact that he
Mhm.
ended up being an ally in a sense. I
Mhm.
mean, I know he wasn't really, but he was. And that little joke about he's at that costume party, and someone says, "Hey, that's a nice costume," and he goes,
Yeah.
"No, that's my uniform."
It's actually my uniform.
There was some of those little elements were really good. And again, before we go to the wheel, the filmmaking aspect, the costuming and the just the set design was just fantastic.
And the editing.
I didn't notice it, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's go to the wheel.
Did everyone say Zooby Doo? I didn't see everyone say Zooby Doo.
I
did
think
they?
we all-
We do indeed.
We
Okay.
did.
Yes, I'm looking forward to tracking down some other versions.
More adventures.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
some
and
more
this
on Amazon.
actor, by the way, the lead guy who we're talking about, we're sad he's not here anymore, but he did a
Sushant
film
Singh
called
Rajput.
a cricket film called MS Dhoni: The Untold Story, which if I can find it, I'm going to have to watch it. So
Yes, everyone's recommending stuff for Ralph to watch cricket.
they really want me to go to
Yeah.
cricket matches and stuff.
I have
I'm
some
thrilled.
links
I
for
can't
you.
wait.
Did
wanna
you get
go
the
to a
link
cricket
someone
match.
gave me?
They want
for
us,
you?
John. Somebody here. They want us to do cricket reviews. They want us to do the trailer reviews, but with crickets. Cricket
Oh my
matches.
god.
What, a cricket match?
I
Watch
would
a
love
cricket
to.
match?
These bowlers are insane. These guys are great. I can't wait. So, but all right, let's go to the wheel. All right, so we're down to 6 for this run.
There's
Okay.
a movie about Benjamin Netanyahu? Wow, that's cool.
Okay. Doom 3. Nobody wants us to do, John. You
Yeah,
upset
well,
about
they're wrong.
that? Okay. Here we go.
Well, in our last wheel, we had one that we didn't pick, so
Yeah,
we
the
were
Forrest Gump. That's twice. Okay,
That is
2
twice
weeks in a row.
That is so weird. You predicted those twice.
I can't believe this.
What? Is this a setup, you guys?
Not
No.
to.
All right. Anybody know what this film's about?
Yes, it's about three policemen that get in trouble after a kid in their custody dies, and so it's a political action thriller.
This takes place in Baltimore.
I was about to say, it
No, it
sounds
could,
like our
yeah.
town. Is the kid Freddie
Now
Gray?
here's the crazy part.
Uh-oh.
It's on Netflix. Are you ready? It's 2 hours and 4 minutes.
What?
A short.
You want to
Wow.
spin another wheel?
No.
Are you sure it's not just
Wow.
part one?
Wow.
Yeah, right. It doesn't say so on the poster. So
That's amazing. All right. Well, there you go.
There you go.
We could watch that tonight.
I could, yeah.
So
That's
this is
nice.
over.
All right.
All right. So there we go.
Pee-wee.
Watch this film for next week. John, anything you'd like to say?
Yes, I would. Listen, we hit 2,000 subscriptions, and we're going even higher than that. And you guys have supported us, and we really appreciate it. But once again, if we have not earned it, we hope we've earned it tonight. Please subscribe, hit the notification button, and as always, smash the like button. It really does make a difference, and we appreciate it.
And we do have another channel called Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Podcast where we do American
Classic.
films, classic American films.
Which you have no interest in,
It
apparently.
wouldn't hurt every once in a while
Yeah.
coming over there. Jack the viewers up
Yeah.
a little bit. We're still hitting around
There's-
120. Actually,
We're
about
doing a
85 for the
2-for-1
last
now.
last
We're
set.
doing a 2-for-1 series now, so you can actually double your
You
movie
think we
pleasure
could get
with
more,
just one
but-
episode.
I
Take
know
a
it sounds
look at
pitiful
some of
that we
you
keep
guys
asking.
like
but
you tell us you tell us you like Hollywood films. You tell us that all the time. Take a look at some of those ones.
I
You
guess
might
they don't
them.
like our take on Hollywood films. is
Right.
what
Well,
it is, maybe.
we do get a little confrontational in some of those.
Yes, we do.
So
So,
you might like that.
all right. Well, everybody have a good week. And
Have a good one.
we'll see
You
you next
also.
week.
Yeah.
I'll try to wear a more appropriate hat.
You're wearing a good one right
You
now.
pulled
Sean.
out.
I'm
You
sorry.
pulled
You
out.
asked for
All right,
comments. I didn't
Sean.
realize. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I gotta
my
say
bad.
one thing. When when Debbie had the bindi on last week, I said I don't think you should be doing this. I think that's pandering. I think that's cultural misappropriation.
I'm married.
Debbie, I was totally wrong.
I know.
They loved your.
Mhm. Loved it. Oh, it changed microphones.
There you
So-
go.
Oh.
All
I
right.
like the person who said, I was afraid to comment because it might have been a zit.
That's good. All right. Well,
My
everybody,
teenage years are gone.
okay. Have a good week, and we'll see you
See you
next
guys.
week.
Yeah.
Cinemaniacs, Indian Cinemaniacs.
See you, everybody.